I talk to women every single week who have been health conscious for years. They know how to eat well, they exercise regularly, and yet somewhere along the way, with seemingly no rhyme or reason, the weight started creeping up and became impossible to lose. I work with a client, let's call her Sarah, who came to me completely defeated. She'd been a competitive runner in her 30s, always lean, always energetic, but now in her mid-40s, she was eating the same way, running the same miles, and gaining weight steadily. She'd tried cutting calories even more. She added in more cardio. She'd eliminated entire food groups, but nothing worked. And the thing that was really getting to her was that she felt like she was failing at something that she used to be good at. But Sarah wasn't messing up. She wasn't miscounting calories or slacking on her run. Her body had simply adapted to decades of the same approach. And what worked at 30 doesn't work at 45. Not because of age alone, but because of everything her body had learned along the way. What used to result in easy weight loss now results in nothing, or even weight gain, even when you're being good. And the thing that is so maddening is you're often doing more than you used to, eating even less, moving even more, trying harder, and getting fewer results. You might be eating 1,200 calories when you used to lose weight on 800 calories. You might be doing 2-a-day workouts when you used to maintain your weight with just 3 sessions a week. You're white knuckling your way through every day, saying no to social events because you can't trust yourself around food, and your body is still not cooperating. And the mental toll that takes is exhausting. The constant food thoughts, the guilt when you eat something off plan, the anxiety about upcoming events where food is going to be involved. The shame when you look in the mirror, and the absolute despair when you've gone through all of that turmoil only to see that the scales still haven't shifted. This isn't just about your body anymore. It's about your entire quality of life. So today, I want to talk about why that happens, not to give you another protocol or a quick fix, but to help you to understand what's actually going on beneath the surface. Because once you see it, everything starts to make much more sense. This episode is about the hidden cost of years of dieting, the metabolic and hormonal shifts that happen when we've spent years, sometimes decades, trying to control our weight or stay healthy through restriction, rules, and willpower. And I want to share what I've learned from working with hundreds of women who have been through this exact experience. Women who have tried every diet, followed every expert, and done everything right, and still felt like their bodies were really working against them. Because once you understand your physiology, once you see what's actually happening on a cellular level and a hormonal level, the frustration really begins to lift. Not because the problem magically disappears, but because you finally have a roadmap and, it stops feeling like such a battle. And, I want to be clear from the start that this isn't about blaming you. This is not about saying that you've done something wrong, because you didn't. You did exactly what you were told to do. You followed the advice. You trusted the experts. But the advice was worse than useless. It was harmful. And your body has been paying the price. The diet industry has taught us that weight management is simple. Calories in, calories out. Eat less, move more. If you're not losing weight, you're not trying hard enough. You're not disciplined enough. You're not committed enough. But that model is fundamentally flawed. It treats your body like a simple calculator when it's actually incredibly complex and very adaptive. This way of thinking ignores hormones, stress, sleep, inflammation, gut health, nervous system regulation, all the things that actually determine whether your body feels safe enough to let go of stored energy. And for decades, women have been blamed for the failure of this model. Women have been told that it's their fault when the approach itself is incomplete. And any woman who's gone on a health kick along with her hubby or a male friend will know that effort and willpower have absolutely nothing to do with it. So let's start with metabolism, because this is where most of the confusion lives. When we talk about metabolism, most people think of it as this fixed thing, like you either have a fast metabolism or a slow one. And that is kind of like your genetic luck of the draw. But metabolism isn't fixed. It's very adaptive. And that's actually a really good thing. It's what kept our ancestors alive during times of famine. Your body is incredibly intelligent. It's always trying to keep you safe. Think of your metabolism like a thermostat in your house. When it's cold outside, the thermostat adjusts to keep the temperature stable inside. When resources are scarce, your metabolism adjusts to keep you alive on less energy. It's not being stubborn or difficult, it's protecting you and working to keep you alive. And this adaptation helps every level. Your thyroid adjusts hormone production, your mitochondria, the energy factories in your cells, they become more efficient. Your brain reduces the energy it allocates to non-essential functions. Your muscles become more efficient at using fuel. Even your gut bacteria shift to extract more calories from the food you eat. This is sophisticated biological intelligence. Your body is constantly monitoring, adjusting, and optimizing for survival, and it's really, really good at it. So when you restrict calories, when you diet, your body doesn't know that you're doing it on purpose. It doesn't know that there's food in the cupboards and fully stocked supermarkets down the road. All it knows is that energy coming in has dropped and it needs to respond. And it does respond. Your body starts to slow things down. It reduces your metabolic rate, which is the number of calories that you burn at rest. It makes you feel a little more tired. You move a little less throughout the day without even realizing it. And it also turns down non-essential functions like hair growth and skin repair, and even your menstrual cycle, because those things require energy right now, and energy is scarce. But it's not just about the big, obvious things like your metabolic rate. It's also about the tiny, unconscious movements that you make throughout the day, and what researchers call NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. When you're in a calorie deficit, you naturally fidget less. You take the lift instead of the stairs without even thinking about it. You sit down more, you move more slowly. Your body is conserving energy in 1,000 small ways you don't even notice. And this is why people often say, but I'm eating so little and I'm still not losing weight. You know, they're not lying, they're not miscounting. Their body has genuinely slowed down to match that reduced intake. The math that should work on paper doesn't work in a living adaptive system. This is called metabolic adaptation, and it's not a malfunction. It's your body being really, really smart. But the thing is, when you've dieted once, your metabolism adapts. And when you stop dieting and you go back to eating normally, your metabolism eventually recovers. That's the natural cycle. In fact, studies show that when someone diets for the first time and then returns to normal eating, their metabolism typically recovers within a few months. The body is resilient, it bounces back. But that's with one diet, one period of restriction followed by adequate recovery time. But what happens when you've dieted more than once? But, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times? What happens when you've spent years cycling between restriction and falling off the wagon? Because being good and feeling like you failed, your body starts to learn. It starts to expect restriction, and it gets better and better at protecting you from it. This is called metabolic memory. Your body literally remembers previous periods of restriction, and gets better at defending against them. It's like your metabolism develops a protective reflex. And the thing is, the more times you've dieted, the faster your metabolism adapts to that restriction and the slower it recovers when you stop. So you might drop into metabolic adaptation within days instead of weeks, and recovery might take months instead of weeks. This is why yo-yo dieting can be so damaging. It's not just that you regain the weight, it's that each cycle makes the next one harder. Your body becomes increasingly resistant to weight loss and increasingly efficient at weight regain. So each time you diet, your metabolism adapts faster, it becomes more efficient at running on less, and it becomes more resistant to letting go of that stored energy. Because from your body's perspective, it needs that energy. It might need it to survive the next famine. This is why the same calorie deficit that worked when you were 25 doesn't work anymore at 45. Not because you're older, though age does play a role, but it's because your body's learned. It's been through this before and it's not going to fall for it again. I see this all the time in my practice. A woman will tell me, I used to lose weight on 1,500 calories, now I'm eating 1,200 and nothing's happening. Her metabolism has down-regulated, not because she's broken, but because her body has adapted. And now she's stuck in this terrible place where she's eating too little to feel good, but not little enough to lose weight, because her body has adjusted to match her intake. This is metabolic suppression, and it's reversible, but not by eating less. That just digs that hole deeper. Now, if it were just about metabolism, that would be one thing. You could theoretically just eat less and move more, right? But it's not just metabolism, because restriction doesn't just affect how many calories you burn. It affects your hormones, and hormones control everything. So let's talk about the thyroid first, because this is a big one. Your thyroid is like the gas pedal for your metabolism. It produces hormones, primarily T4 and T3, that tell every cell in your body how much energy to use. So think of T4 as the storage form of your thyroid hormone and T3 as the active form. Your body produces mostly T4, and when that gets converted to T3 in your liver and your gut and other tissues, then T3 is actually what binds to receptors in your cells to tell them to produce energy. When everything's working well, this conversion happens smoothly. But when you're under stress, including the stress of dieting, your body starts converting the T4 into reverse T3 instead. And reverse T3 is like the brake pedal. It blocks the receptors that T3 would normally bind to, effectively slowing down your metabolism even further. When you restrict calories, your body downregulates thyroid hormone production, and specifically, it reduces that conversion of T4 to T3. And it does this because your body is trying to conserve energy. It thinks that food is scarce and it's going to turn down that gas pedal. Now, this might not show up on your standard thyroid tests. Your TSH might look normal, your T4 might look normal, but your T3, the one that actually matters and never gets tested, might be low. Or your reverse T3, which also never gets tested, might be high. And you feel it, you feel cold all the time, your hair starts thinning, your skin gets dry, you're exhausted, even though you're sleeping enough, your brain feels foggy. But your doctor says that your thyroid is fine. This is one of the most frustrating experiences for women because they know that something's wrong and they have all the symptoms of hypothyroidism, but their labs come back normal and they're told that it's just stress or aging or perimenopause or they need to try harder. But your standard thyroid testing only looks at TSH. It sometimes looks at T4, and doctors don't test for T3 or reverse T3. And even when they do, they're looking for pathology. They're looking for markers that indicate disease, not optimization. So you can have thyroid function that's technically within the reference range, but nowhere near optimal. And you feel the difference with that every day. And technically, from a lab's perspective, it might be within range, but within range doesn't mean optimal. And it doesn't account for what years of dieting have done to your thyroid function. Now, let's talk about cortisol. Cortisol is your stress hormone, and dieting is a stressor. Eating less than your body needs is a physical stress. Worrying about food is a mental stress. Exercising intensely while undereating is compounded stress. Now, cortisol isn't inherently bad. You need cortisol. It helps you to wake up in the morning, to respond to challenges, and maintain blood sugar between your meals. The problem isn't cortisol itself, it's chronic elevation of cortisol without adequate recovery. When you're dieting, your cortisol naturally rises because your body perceives the calorie deficit as a threat. Add in intense exercise, poor sleep, work stress, relationship stress, and the mental stress of constantly thinking about food, you've got yourself a recipe for chronically elevated cortisol. And chronically elevated cortisol doesn't just make you store fat, it actively breaks down muscle tissue to convert it to glucose. So you're losing the very tissue that helps you to burn calories efficiently. You're literally working against yourself. And when you're under chronic stress, which is what chronic dieting is, your cortisol stays elevated. And high cortisol does a few things. It makes you store fat, particularly around your midsection. It makes you crave sugar and carbs because your body thinks that it needs quick energy. It disrupts your sleep, which then makes everything worse. And it interferes with your other hormones, including your sex hormones. Now, there's also something called cortisol still or pregnenolone still, and that happens when you're under chronic stress. Your body makes all your steroid hormones, cortisol, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and it does that from the same precursor molecule, pregnenolone. When you're under chronic stress, your body prioritizes making cortisol over making sex hormones because from a survival perspective, dealing with the immediate threat is more important than reproduction. So your body literally steals the building blocks that would normally go towards making estrogen and progesterone and uses them to make more cortisol instead. This is why chronic stress can worsen perimenopausal symptoms, disrupt your cycle, kill your libido, and make you feel completely hormonally imbalanced because you are. Your body is choosing survival over thriving. Which brings us to estrogen and progesterone. For women over 40, this is where things get interesting and very, very frustrating because you're already navigating perimenopause or menopause. Your hormones are already shifting. Estrogen is declining, progesterone is declining, and your body is trying to adjust to this new normal. But when you add chronic dieting and chronic stress into the mix, you're making that transition so much harder. Now, during menopause, your ovaries are producing less estrogen and progesterone, but your body is smart. It starts producing these hormones in other places, particularly in your fat tissue. This is actually protective. It's why having some body fat becomes more important as you age. But when you're chronically dieting, chronically stressed, and chronically under-eating, you're interfering with this backup system. You're making it harder for your body to produce the hormones it needs from alternative sources. And you're increasing the stress hormones that interfere with whatever sex hormones you are producing. So you end up with worse hot flushes, worse mood swings, worse sleep disruption, worse brain fog, all because you're trying to lose weight using methods that are actively working against your hormonal health. Now, low estrogen combined with high cortisol is a recipe for weight gain, particularly around the middle. It's also a recipe for insulin resistance, which makes it even harder to lose the fat. And low progesterone, which often happens when you're under chronic stress, means you're not getting enough of the calming anti-anxiety, sleep-supporting benefits that progesterone provides. So now you're tired, anxious, and not sleeping well, craving sugar, storing fat around your middle, and feeling like your body has just completely given up on you. But your body isn't betraying you. It's responding exactly as it is designed to. It's just responding to the wrong signals. Because your body can't tell the difference between a diet and a famine. It can't tell the difference between the stress of restriction and the stress of actual real danger. All it knows is what it's experiencing, and what it's experiencing is a lack of fuel, chronic stress, and chronic uncertainty about when the next meal is coming. So it does what it's designed to do. It holds on, it slows down, it protects you. And this is why willpower doesn't work. This is why just eating less and moving more doesn't work, because you're not fighting a lack of discipline. You're fighting biology. You're fighting your nervous system that is stuck in survival mode. You're fighting sex hormones that are doing exactly what they're supposed to do in response to the signals that you're sending. And no amount of willpower can override any of that. I want you to really let this sink in. When you're struggling to lose weight, when you're feeling exhausted and frustrated and like you're failing, you're not lazy and you're not just destined to be bigger as you get older. You're experiencing a physiological response to chronic stress and restriction. Your body is functioning exactly as it should. The problem isn't your body, it's the approach that you've been taught to use. It's the belief that you can override biology with discipline. It's the idea that if you just try hard enough, your body will comply. But your body doesn't work that way. It's not a machine that you can force into submission. It's a living, intelligent system that's constantly trying to keep you alive and safe. And until you work with that system, you're going to keep hitting the same wall. So you might be thinking, okay, if dieting caused this, then does that mean that I need to eat more? Does that mean that I should just give up on my health goals? No, absolutely not. But it does mean that the solution is not another diet. It's not more restriction. And it's not trying harder with the same approach that got you here in the first place. The solution is understanding that your body needs to feel safe again. It needs to trust that food is abundant, that energy is available, that it doesn't need to hold on quite so tightly. And that process, that metabolic healing and that hormone rebalancing, it takes time and it takes patience. And it takes a completely different approach to what you've been taught. Metabolic healing isn't linear. It's not like flipping a switch. Your body needs time to recalibrate, to learn that it's safe, and to restore the systems that have been suppressed. For some women, this process takes a few months. For others, especially those who have been dieting for decades, it can take a year, maybe more. And I know that's hard to hear when you want the results now, but the alternative, continuing to diet, continuing to restrict, continuing to fight your body, that doesn't work either. It just keeps you stuck in the same cycle. The good news is that once you start this process, you'll start feeling better long before you start seeing changes on the scale. Your energy improves, your sleep improves, your mood stabilizes, your cravings decrease, your hair stops falling out. And these are signs that your body's healing, even if the number on the scale hasn't moved just yet. It requires eating enough, not just enough to lose weight, but enough to support your metabolism, your hormones, your energy, your sleep, your mood, and your life. It requires managing stress, not just the stress of your job or your relationships, but the stress you're putting on your body through overexercising, undereating, and constant vigilance around food. It requires addressing the root causes, the thyroid dysfunction, the cortisol dysregulation, the insulin resistance, the inflammation, rather than just trying to override them with willpower. This is where functional medicine and root cause approaches become so valuable. Instead of just treating symptoms, we're looking at what's driving those symptoms. We're running comprehensive labs to see what's actually happening with your thyroid, your cortisol, your blood sugar, your inflammation markers, your nutrient status. We're looking at your gut health because your gut produces neurotransmitters and regulates inflammation and affects hormone metabolism. We're looking at your sleep quality because poor sleep disrupts every hormone in your body. We're looking at your stress response and your nervous system regulation because you can't heal in a state of chronic fight or flight. And then we're creating a personalized plan that addresses your specific imbalances, not a generic meal plan or a workout program, but a comprehensive approach that supports your unique physiology. You need someone who understands what's actually going on and can help you to navigate it. This is why so many women feel stuck, because they're trying to solve a biological problem with a behavioral solution. They're trying to willpower their way through a metabolic and hormonal issue, and that doesn't work. Not because they're not trying hard enough, but because they're trying to fix the wrong thing. If you've spent years dieting, if you've been eating well and exercising and still not seeing results, if you feel like your body just doesn't work the way that it used to, I want you to know that you are not broken. Your body is doing exactly what it's been trained to do. And with the right approach, with the right support, with the right understanding of what's actually happening beneath the surface, you can shift it. You can restore your metabolism. You can rebalance your hormones. You can feel like yourself again. But it starts with understanding. It starts with seeing the full picture. It starts with recognizing that this isn't about willpower or discipline or trying harder. It's about working with your body instead of against it. And that's exactly what I teach in my free masterclass. In that masterclass, I walk you through the 3 biggest metabolic and hormonal blocks that keep women over 40 stuck, even when they're doing everything right. I show you why the conventional approach doesn't work for you anymore, and I share the framework that I use with my clients to restore their metabolism, balance their hormones, and finally start seeing results again. It's not about giving you a meal plan or a workout program. It's about helping you to understand what's actually happening in your body so that you can make informed decisions about what to do next. So if this episode has resonated with you, if you're tired of feeling stuck, if you're ready to understand what's really going on and what to do about it, I'd love to see you in that masterclass. You can find the link in the show notes. It's completely free, and it might just be the missing piece that you've been looking for. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.